After that, we'll see. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, Guang here. It's great to see you all again. Season 9 shook up the Chronoverse. The brand new team-up system fundamentally evolved how our heroes synergize.
It did indeed.
Injecting fresh, explosive energy into
patch notes, yes, patch notes.
We've been thrilled to watch the reworked Black Widow gain a lethal
Widow's broken
match and competitive modes. And the reception to our newest hero, Jubilee, has been incredible. The community has truly uncovered her true potential, but as Season 9.5 approaches, a darker element is stepping out of the shadows. What chaos will Parker Robbins, the Hood, bring to the battlefield? The Hood is a vanguard, a dynamic gunner who works
no
the
DPS?
razor's edge between mortal mobster and demonic powerhouse.
Demonic powerhouse.
Between human and demon foes. Parker lays down relentless frontal cover fire with his twin pistols. Utilizing his mystical cloak, he channels the chaotic energy of Oblivion to manifest protective shields for his
fire. I needed this. Did you?
While hurling dark magic orbs that warp into barriers.
Is he hit scan?
Sapping the strength of incoming enemy
fire.
Fire. When the Hood's demonic energy reaches critical point, his inner demon bleeds through, entering half-demon state. His arms mutate into devastating demonic rifles, allowing him to unleash an absolute hailstorm of lead. For his ultimate ability, the Hood fully surrenders to the darkness, entering full demon state, transforming into a fully realized demon. In this terrifying state,
this is literally just the gun devil.
Massive, high-impact piercing round that completely punctures the first massive, high-impact.
What? 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 That's the same thing. What? Yo, these devs know what they're doing with this one. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Piercing rounds that completely.
You wouldn't know who that is unless you read Chainsaw Man. Wow.
And enemy alike, all while radiating dark energy that grants bonus health to nearby teammates. We've been building the Hood's lore with our friends at Marvel Games and Marvel Publishing.
You say cock tower defense? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Excited for this next step in his story. In the lore, the heroes recently locked the Hood in a temporary holding cell after he murdered Gambit. From behind bars, he actually volunteered to unlock the secrets of the tablet of death and entropy, an artifact capable of communicating directly with the subs. Moon Knight communed with the tablet, listening to the agonizing whispers of millions of undead souls. These lost voices testify to the cruelty of Apocalypse, accusing the mutant god of orchestrating ties and Eclipse to systematically exterminate.
Yo, I appreciate all this. Holy shit, it's 3 in a row.
While the heroes unraveled the web of
subs decayed. You guys are cooked.
And confirmed that Apocalypse
you guys might be cooked for this stuff, I fear.
Down by the new wielder of all black, the Necro Sword. This final revelation from the tablet changes everything. Mark Spector now realizes the terrifying truth. A true mastermind is hiding behind the curtain, playing them all like pawns, one that he knows all too well. The curtain drops on this cosmic conspiracy in Season 9.
Lore yap. Is the food that good? Yeah, it's pretty good.
Following our August 13th update, a brand new wave of facial costumes and cosmetics will hit the store. Additionally, the Guardians of Mischief will hit the.
Because some people are gifted. Who is she? That Magic? God damn. That Scarlet Witch? Jesus Christ. Who the fuck is that in the left? Is that supposed to be Star-Lord? Who cares about the men? God damn, Moto a black cat. Jesus Christ. They know what they're doing with these skins.
Additionally, the Guardians of Mischief is getting a flare upgrade. We are rolling out exclusive toggleable movement and ability animations for Lady Loki, which you can customize directly in the costume menu. Finally, grab your tackle box. The fan favorite Krakow and Reels event returns for Volume 2. As the Marvel Rivals universe expands with every season, so does our file size. While this is the nature of a growing chronoverse, our tech wizards have been hard at work forging solutions. In Season 9.5, we are implementing a massive texture compression overhaul without sacrificing a single pixel of visual fidelity. We are drastically shrinking the game's footprint on your hard drive.
They're actually gonna
PC
optimize the fucking game.
Expect a reduction of roughly 40 gigabytes, while PS5 and Xbox versions are expected to decrease by 15 gigabytes.
40 compared to 15, damn.
Because we are completely repackaging these assets, the initial Season 9.5 update will be larger than usual, but the final installed size will be much lighter. Zhiyong is busy in the lab fine-tuning the meta, so keep your eyes peeled for our upcoming balance adjustments.
Was he really?
Until next time, ignite the battle.
I forgot they only... Damn, his art looks sick. I forgot they only talk about the fucking thingies and full season changes. Zhiyong doesn't appear in the half season once. Oh, this is a major balance change.
Step aside. The Hood's here to finish this.
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit, he's not hit scan. Wait. He is. Okay, that's hit scan. Holy fuck that damage. What the fuck? He's 550 HP, 40 ammo, just like Deadpool. Oh shit. Oh, he has a shield. Oh, he has 2 shields. What do you take less damage? Oh, you're blinded when you go through it. Do you more damage shooting through it? Probably does, because like Sarah. Oh shit. That's pretty sick. Oh wait, does that enhance his gun?
Time to unleash the demon.
That is the gun devil. What?
Face oblivion.
Oh, you can't move? Oh, I wish you could move. Damn! That shit shoots through shields. We're using the air though. It's like a fucking turret.
That's real power.
Nah, he should be able to move in that. If he can like move, oh my god, that shit would be hype. Dude, you should be able to move in that. It gives you teal shield. Nah, they need to buff that. Make that able to move. Make it able to move, bro. Come on, stop being cowards. And we're just gonna hide from this shit, bro. Come on, man. What is this health in it? Bro, and you can destroy it, bro. And it has limited ammo. Bro, please, make it so you can move in this shit. That'd be so hype. You gotta flank with it? Bro, oh my god, it's one of those type of ults. You just gotta fucking flank with it. Son. No. Let me able to move in this shit, bro. Lock in. Look at the HP though. It's not that crazy, bro. We're just gonna shoot it or hide.
Face oblivion.
I won't deny it. Shooting through shields is kind of crazy though. But
that's real power.
Damn. Okay, it shooting through shields is pretty crazy. I won't deny that. That's pretty mad. But The fucking oh, you can't move with, man. Ah, please let me see the rivals thingy. Oh, this is not it. Where's skins at? Which one's the skin? Oh, this is it. Where's corn rolls? Stitch braids, actually. Not a bad looking skin.
Did you miss me?
Bro can actually just walk up.
Wrong side.
Oh, that's a ball?
Yo soy el final.
That's loud as fuck, sorry.
There you are.
Well, fuck? Is that Iron Fist? What the fuck? That threw me off. Who the fuck? What the fuck? Fist of Khonshu Moon Knight? Oh, okay. That Iron Fist one just literally jump scared me. I'm like, who the fuck is that? Yeah, it's Iron Fist. That threw me off completely, bro. I will come back to that for patch notes. Or actually, no, I think that's it. I'll look at this shit one more time. In case I missed anything.
Step aside. The hood's here to finish this.
Hey, you look sick. His wall's damage reduction is fire. Yeah, that shit's fire. He's 550. And this thing, he has infinite ammo. This is a duration thing. So yeah, he has infinite ammo. So does he like just keep shooting you and he like racks up the demon gauge? Because his fire rate's speeding up. Does that make you play tank more? I don't mind playing tank. Sure. I like hit scan, so yeah. That's why I like tank pool a lot.
Time to unleash the demon.
I like characters that reward you for your aim, but I don't like Hella because Hella shoots too slow. That's just boring. That's why I like Phoenix. Damn, god damn.
Yo soy el final. That's real power.
Zero close gives lifesteal and charge the passive if you didn't see it. Oh, interesting. Interesting. What's that service tomorrow? So we'll give that a try tomorrow. Oh, that's too fast, too far ahead. Far ahead. I'm going too far ahead. Okay, let's look at what is his name? I mean the patch notes. Oh, they showed the preview streamers. The boy did not make it still, sadly. About who I'd expect. About who would I expect? Damn, his artwork looks so fucking sick, bro. His artwork looks sick. And Shade 3 is an actual. They showed off Doom's costume with Tokon. Oh, did they? Okay, we can look at that first then. Before we look at this. Dr. Doom. Yeah, we can look at that. Okay. Let me look at the patch notes. Ooh. Where's the rest? Oh, that's it. It's only 2 pages. That's it. Strategist, duelist, Vanguard. Damn, that's it. Okay. Wow. Okay. Let me see what do we got here. The Dino. Oh, Dino's getting buffed, I think. Prehistoric Power is beefing up his bite and making a bigger splash when he teams up. Oh, they're buffing his team up. His maximum health percentage dealt by the first 4 attacks of Frenzied Feast. Is that his F? The 5th attack from 10% to 12%. I think that's his F. Unless I'm wrong. Pretty sure that's his F. Like the multi-bite thingy or whatever. You need 3 shots to kill 250 HP target. It's kind of underwhelming. Oh, you're talking with the other guy, the hood. Interesting. Strange. Is Strange getting buffed? Turning Sorcerer is manifesting more mystical munitions and spinning maelstroms even faster with the green Goliath. I thought I said Goblin. I wasn't going to say what? Increased daggers. Single target damage from 16 to 18. So it's basic attack and projectile charges from. Oh, he has more ammo. Oh shit! What the fuck? When selecting a team with Hulk, would use Gamma Maelstrom's cooldown from 8 to 6. So it's like the Invis one now, because the Invis one lowers the cooldown of your E as well. What? I feel like people would still use the Invis one. Whatever. Interesting. Magneto. Master of Madison is adding a little bit extra lift to his offensive strikes. We're channeling chaos. We're talking to with Scarlet Witch. The metallic chaos projectile now adds a minor launch up effect. The right click. Oh, they buffed the right click. Nice. Because the right click was ass. The right click was ass. It was a worse version of the base. So they buffed the right click to be just like the base. Because you wouldn't, if you're playing Magneto, you wouldn't want to Scarlet Witch on your team. It makes your right click worse, and you need your right click to do the one combo. So like Magneto players would get angry if they had a Scarlet on their team. All right, Rogue, increase the damage reduction multiplier one defensive sense from 55 to 60. Increase generative shield capacity from 250 to 275. Damn, so they don't want to give her health back. They just want to make her blocking more tankier. Okay, I can respect it. I can respect it. They don't want to just give her just more health back while she's doing that much damage. If you want to be more survival, they give her more survivability, just not in the way that people wanted. But this helps. This helps. Yeah. Penny. We were reading Penny's controls. Its variability, in particular, the mobilize effect applied to her cyber web snare was too frequent and oppressive, leading to a poor counter experience for enemies. We've decided to increase the cost of applying this control. In return, we will be increasing her freedom over secondary fire. Freedom over secondary? Fuck do you mean by that? Remove the direct immobilize effect when hitting enemies with cyber web snare. Plus a stack of web tracer. Oh my god, it doesn't stun no more? That's hype. Dude, you would try to fight her head on, and like if you're not a hit scan, you just get webbed and then just die. That's fucking crazy. Thank goodness. It was so brain dead trying to fight her. Like, you finally get close enough to fight her head on, and then she just webs your ass. Yo, Ice, what's up, dude? Thanks for the raid. Appreciate the raid. Hope you had a good stream. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. W1 million raid. I appreciate it. Damn. That's fucking crazy. That's huge, though, no? That's a big nerf. I like that. Because, like, if you were bold enough to fight her on top of her mines, you just explode before you could kill her. But now you still shouldn't do it. You can still fight back a little bit, you know. Oh, blade content. Oh yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Hope you had a good stream. Appreciate that. Okay. Remove the direct. Oh wait, I already read that part, didn't I? So now it just slows you for 30% for 1 second. The web chaser lasts for 5 seconds. What? The enemy is web traced by snare again. Oh, it'll stun. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, it will stun if you get hit by it again. Penny nerf is BS. You say it's BS, but this character full holds people. I've never seen a character full hold. And she's too good at holding down sights. She's too good at it. Especially if Bucky is banned. She's way too good at it. If Punisher and Bucky is banned, she's way too good at holding down sights. She's fucked now. It just requires more skill. I don't think she's gonna be fucked. She's still gonna be strong, just not unfightable. If you dive, it's not unfightable if you dive. You're still gonna explode, obviously. The mines are still gonna fuck you over, but like, skill issue, you losers. So you don't even gotta worry about Penny players. You're playing support, are you not? Or do you play Penny? Would you want us to take sight? Anyways, adjust the web snare charge. Oh, you get 2 charges now. That's good. Reduce bonus health provided by Penny webs from 200 to 150. Okay. And she's squishier, and I mean she has two charges now. Penny was my first level 4 support. Why'd you stop playing her? Well, I guess she's permanent banned, to be fair. She won't be not. She won't be burn banned anymore. You wouldn't want your character being this broken, so you're never gonna get to play her if she's that broken. At least she's finally be playable. We're reeling into symbiotes. Everyone's resilience to ensure he has a swing with a bit more strategy. Boost the bonus provided by symbiote resilience from 120. Oh, his E. Damn. Okay. Interesting. Increased venom swing. Oh, the cooldown's longer too. Oh, that's a big nerf right here. This one's, it's a nerf, but this one, woo, you could kill him before he escapes. I've had venom swing in and then survive because the cooldown comes back before we can melt him and he's able to swing back out. Now, if you're an absolute idiot and you swing with venom, you are going to die. You are going to die. I'm gonna kill you in time this time. That's for damn sure. I've almost killed him so many times and he got that cooldown back, but now it's 10 seconds. He's gonna die. Strategist. Dust stores hurling system score ornaments tighten with tighter speed and precision. Why do I always keep touching his basic attack? It's faster. I swear they always nerf the damage or like lower the healing or up the healing or lower the damage, up the damage. Now they're touching the speed. They always touch his basic attack. They touch his basic attack like a million times, I feel. Jubilation is packing slightly more punch and pop into a radiant sparkling fireworks. Increase the energy plasmoid single hit from 10 to 11. Okay, her base damage is higher. And that's pretty good. 10 to 11 and 14 to 15 when she has her enhance on. She's gonna laser you. Oh my god, when the hood is here, that team up is gonna be permanent, by the way. Yo, she's gonna be doing 15 damage with that fucking beam on her basic attack. Sheesh. This is a good buff for Jubilee. Oh yeah, I'm playing Jubilee next patch. That's gonna be so fun. Anyways, okay, not bad. Obviously the biggest loser when it comes to Vanguard so far was obviously Penny. Oh, is there more strategist buffs? Oh, there is. Gambit. Remy is playing a steadier hand. What? Magneto, just the launch frequency of the spell field from. What? He's. You have lost your ever living mind. That team up is so brain dead. No one even uses the other one with Gambit, bro. Oh my god. The launcher frequency of the spell field is from 0.5 to 1. Okay, well, he's still gonna be permanent banned. Like, that's a buff, no? Well, I guess it could be a buff and a nerf because it's gonna keep knocking you up, but it's gonna knock you up for longer. So maybe you can escape it more instead of it multi-hitting you over and over and over. It's a nerf. Oh, wait, it is a nerf. That's the time it takes to proc, not how long you're stunned. I see. Okay, so it's not gonna just loop you in a corner. Yes, it knocks you up less often. Yeah, I read it wrong. That's a good nerf. That team up was burgering and shit. Like, bro, remember in that video where I was fighting J3 in them? That rogue was stuck in the corner in the room, stuck in the corner with the Gambit thing. It was just literally knocking her on the wall over and over, just bouncing her back and forth. She couldn't do shit. He literally deadass couldn't fight back. It was so hilarious. All right, White Fox. Reduce the energy cost of her ult. Oh my god. Am I reading that number right? Am I reading that number right? Son, her ult's gonna cost 43 now? And after you do it, you get a blessing of the night effect on everyone within 10 meters. Yo! That is fucking crazy, bro. That's fucking crazy. That's a fat ass buff to White Fox, bro. That is really good. That's really fucking good, bro. It's only for 3 seconds, but you can keep putting more. That's really fucking good. They get lifesteal, CC immunity, and what else do they get? Healing. That's really fucking good, man. That is a big ass buff, bro. I already play White Fox this patch and people hate her. I love White Fox, so I'm playing her even more next patch. Damn, that's a fat ass buff, bro. Damn. Okay, next. Okay, so the biggest winner is White Fox. Like, that's like, what the fuck? That's the biggest winner easily. White Fox just got a crazy ass buff, bro. What the fuck? T'Challa is slightly. Oh, they're nerfing Black Panther too with Storm. Area damage effect from 40 to 30. Increase the cooldown. Is that still gonna one shot 250? I'm pretty sure it still is. I think I could be wrong. Oh, the cooldown's 15 seconds. Damn, that shit got nerfed. You got the pay nerf. She deserved it. Nobody cares about 250s anyway. Think you need 2 spears now? It's gonna be close. I think it doesn't one shot 250 no more. I think it's gonna be close or it doesn't. I'm pretty sure it just doesn't. The combo does exactly 250 now. It used to do 260. Is that 100%? Because it's not really a way you can really test if someone's at a. I guess if someone has like a 10 health. I guess if you test on Hella, make a Hella bird first and then do the combo on her. Did 260 before. I don't know what the exact number was. All I remember is that it killed 250. I'm not a BP player, so I didn't care to check the number. Elsa Bloodstone, when Tino with Double Dino reduced to health, activated a Smoky Snare Trap. 150 control duration. Oh, okay, good. This is a good nerf. This is a good nerf right here. It doesn't stun you for as long. I thought it stunned you for 2 seconds. It felt like 2 seconds. It was actually 1.5, but now it stuns you for 1.2. The health nerf is irrelevant because I mean you can't even see it. If it's already down, the health is irrelevant. It's immortal if it's already on the floor. This is if you see it the split second she throws it. She just has to be more careful placing it, but who cares? She has 2 traps. Well, she's definitely gonna have 2 with this Dino buffed, so I'm surprised they didn't buff the Dino survivability. They buffed his damage. Oh, interesting. I guess they don't want the Dino being immortal, which I can see why. That character being immortal is not healthy for the game. Oh wait, I'm not done. Cyclops. The cooldown reduction provided by Ricochet Force. Are they buffing his team up with? Oh, with Gambit. The cooldown of his E is lowered if Gambit is there by 0.25 now. When selecting teal with Gambit, increase the concussive beam attack frequency boost. Meaning the damage frequency. That'd be cooldown though. Is that the damage or the? It's fucking one of them. I don't know. It's probably both honestly, because this one says the blast hit from 0.5. This is the cooldown. This one's probably just the damage. I mean, it says attack frequency boost, so I'm pretty sure the damage is higher and the cooldown's lower. I mean, okay, cool. I'm still probably gonna use the Phoenix team up personally, but whatever. Oh my god, they're buffing Moon Knight. Adjusting the Crescent Dart and Moonblade balance damage decay from 30 to 20 per bounce. Yeah, it used to lower the damage by 30%, only lowers it by 20% per bounce now. That's not bad. When teaming up with Cloak and Dagger, reduced the Luminous Moon cooldown from 15 to 12. Why was that a 15-second cooldown? I mean, I guess it is like a literal iframe TP thing, but whatever. Base effect, increase the dash duration from 0.3 to 0.35. Dash distance is higher. Cool. Enhanced effect, Moon Knight gauge 3 seconds healing. 20 a second. Oh, he gets healing now. Not bad. It's not a bad buff. I would have loved to see his ultimate get buffed, but is that healthy for the game? Probably not. Probably not. Wolverine. Berserker Rage adjustment. I was tapping into his rage harder and carrying the animalistic fury longer through the fray. Okay, Berserker Rage adjustment. Increase the rage gain per hit. That's a buff. Adjust the rage decay from after 4 seconds of no rage gained to after 5. What the fuck? Why are we buffing Wolverine? Maximum rage use the decay from 15 to 10. Holy shit! Why are we buffing Wolverine? I thought we wanted people to play tank. That's mad, no? Wait, I thought we wanted people to play tank this season. At least let them play for at least a half season, no? At least let the tank players play for a half. It's mage meter last longer. It goes down less. Decays less. Like it takes a while longer for it to decay. Like I don't know. $15 to 10. Oh, they nerfed the undead Monstro. Monstro's so good. They nerfed their Gamma. I mean her other team. But I'm pretty sure all the high level Hellas use the other one. The Venom one is apparently better. This one's just more brain dead. You can't go wrong with neither though. This one's definitely more brain dead though. Phoenix increased the damage though when detonating. Oh no! Increase the area damage from 2. What's to a rogue? Telekinetic beatdown from 45 to 50. Damn! I was using this shit yesterday with Rogue. That shit is nice if you have Rogue there. If Rogue isn't there, it's not that crazy. But if Rogue is there, and keep in mind, every time she shows the fist out, she heals 50 per punch. Or was it? Yeah, it's 50 per punch. If Rogue is there, she heals like 60 something or 70. Damn, that is really fucking good. You know why? You know why they did this, bro. Come on, don't be stupid. They gotta sell that skin. The skin is coming. They have to sell this shit. They have to sell this skin. They have to. This skin will sell numbers. You know why. Hips are crazy. Anyway, Scarlet Witch. When selecting the team up with Doctor Strange, base effect. The ability has 8-second cooldown, 8 duration when activated. Wait, so Arthonian Burst is replaced by Mythic Burst? Oh, wait. Let me read this one more time. The ability has an 8-second cooldown, 8-second duration. When activated, Chthonian Burst is replaced by Mystic Burst, allowing magic moves to be fired freely with no energy cost. So this will be better than what she was doing. She can't use her left click and right click at the same time still, but it lasts longer. Let me read the next part. Enhanced comes a toggle type ability. When toggled on, Mystic Burst, place Chthonian Burst, allowing magic moves to be fired freely. Oh, so it just doesn't cost shit. So you can switch between whichever one you want, but it just won't cost shit if Strange is there. Wait, but so I guess the bar is just gone. Or it's wait, what? So it's no bar, but it's just duration now? Yeah, it doesn't cost energy. It's just a cooldown now. Every 8 seconds she can do this shit. Damn. Yeah, Strange though, she can just do it forever if she wants. It's a weird way of buffing her. Can you just rework her? Like, just rework her. Like, what? It's a weird buff, but I mean, I guess. Like, I don't know. Is that it? All right. Biggest winner this patch, in my opinion. Let me pull up the tank one again. So I forgot. Biggest winners this patch, in my opinion, when it comes to tank, would have to be Rogue and Dino. Low-key Magneto too. That's a good fix. I say the biggest winner is probably Rogue though. At least thank God she got something. Wait, I didn't read the second part when it comes to Dino. When selecting the team with Jeff, increase Surfer Turf maximum duration from 4 to 5 and the healing effect. Oh, he was moving with his beam. Okay. I don't know how I missed that part, but okay. Anyways, the biggest winner as a whole in this patch is easily White Fox and Phoenix. Like, it's not even close. It's not even close, bro. Biggest losers? Well, when it comes to tank, who's the biggest winner when it comes to tank? It's probably Rogue or Dino. One of those two. It's not even close, bro. Holy shit. Yeah, not Hella. Phoenix and White Fox. 43 from 48 is huge, and also it instantly just buffs teammates when you go into ult now with White Fox. As long as you're next to her when she ults, that's really fucking good. That's really fucking good. And yeah, Phoenix just got her damage back on her sparks. Her sparks do more damage again. The area damage. Damn, that's fucking crazy. They love this character. Holy shit. They love this character. Holy shit. I just can't believe Phoenix is about to be back. The Phoenix truly never dies. I'm telling you, that shit is crazy. She's back. Took a break for like 1 season. They're like, oh, she's not getting played in pro play. Let's change that real quick. It was like 1 season. What's up, Sonny? How you doing? That was like 1 season. Damn. Not even a season. That was a half season. She wasn't viable for a half season. Well, not viable. She's viable. She wasn't meta for a half season, and they instantly buffed her. Damn. Anyways, yeah, those are the biggest winners. The biggest losers this patch is easily Penny, Venom. When it comes to support, you know, support's really got big nerfs like that. Other than Gambit, but that was supposed to be like, that shit was an oversight what it was doing. That shit definitely was not intentional. That's the way people weren't able to play the game if you were stuck in that thing. That was like a bug fix. I don't think any support got nerfed technically. Yeah, it's still gonna be a ban. Like, I don't know. Supports didn't lose shit this patch. But biggest nerf for duelists. Black Panther, I'd say probably. They nerfed his ass instantly. Yeah, his ass gone. It's probably Black Panther. Black Panther and also the biggest. Also still gonna be meta. I don't think that's that big of a deal. The stun shouldn't have been doing that in the first place. Black Panther, biggest loser when it comes to DPS. All right, that's not bad. The patch is definitely a nothing burger. It's not as big as I expected. I thought it was gonna be a lot of changes because of we just got a lot of team ups. We got like 100+ skills, so I thought it was gonna be a big patch change, but nope. Oh, the thing is in the way. My bad. Oh well. Yeah, I moved it on Spotify. My bad. I mean on TikTok. My bad. I didn't know that was in the way. Okay, that's it for Rivals. Let's look at this low key shit. I mean this Tokon shit.